Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, Lovey with Nee. I'm Nee, and in today's video, we are talking about Netflix's newest dating show, The Later Daters. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. Also, ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And y'all, let's get right into it. Alright, so getting started with our first later dater is Miss Anees. She is 62 years old. She's been married 3 times. Her first husband unfortunately died, and we don't really know what happened with the other husbands. She doesn't really talk about that during the show, or as of yet. She is giving body oddity, okay? If she wouldn't have said that she was 62, I would have never guessed that she was 62, and she looks really, really good. It is clear that she is very active and she does want an active partner, and she has 2 kids, and her daughter Dwayna, I believe that's how you say her name. When I first heard Dwayna, I was like, girl, is your daddy named Dwayne? I know a lot of ladies that added like the A or the E's at the end of their husband's names. Why is my hair sticking out? I don't know. Anyways, that named their daughters after their husbands or the dads and just added like an A or E at the end to make it more feminine. Miss Anees talks about how she doesn't have a problem getting a first date. It's the second and third dates that is where we struggle. And that to me kind of just send off some alarms. I'm not really sure how I feel about it. It just to me says like, oh, she's probably attracting them with her looks, but then when they sit down and talk to her, maybe they're not as interested in her as they initially appeared to be. So maybe that's not why we get a second and third date, or maybe she just doesn't have an interest in these men after she sits down and talks with them. We don't know, but we're just, scratching the surface right now and just checking things out. From what I'm gathering, her husband died when her kids were still pretty young, so she put herself through undergrad, her master's, and then ultimately her PhD. And another thing I want to say too about her saying that she gets like a second and she does not get a second and third date makes me feel like maybe she's a little bit what's the word? Oh man, what's the word? It starts with the S. When you kind of when you only like the outers, but you don't like the innards. What is the word I'm looking for? Shallow. She may be a little bit shallow, like dating for looks, because she looks so good. She needs somebody to match her swag, and so we're getting men that look good but may not have any substance to them. So anyways, that's Miss Anees. That's who we meet in the beginning of the episode. Alright, so the next later dater we meet is Miss Suzanne, and Suzanne is 63 years old. Miss Suzanne has all the personality, she has all the spunk, and she just seems like a really, really good time. Her husband died some years ago, and she's an optometrist, and her house is absolutely beautiful. Like, I really just love the way her house was decorated, the way her house was built. Like, everything about her home was just fabulous in my humble opinion. Miss Suzanne says she needs a man that has all his teeth. She needs a man that has big lips. She wants him to be fit. She wants him to have arms. She wants him to have nice feet and good hygiene. And at 63, Miss Suzanne, the first thing I'm going to say is the teeth. Look, I work in occupational therapy. I work in an inpatient rehab, and the amount of people that still have all their teeth, their natural teeth at 63 is very slim. But anyways, Miss Suzanne said that she is a Georgia fan. Roll Tide. But that is very important that her partner is also a Georgia fan as well. So she is raising children. She has, I believe, 3 kids. And, she's just out here looking and ready to have a good time. So then we're introduced to Nate, who's 56, and right off bat, I saw the brands. He's an Omega. My husband's an Omega, so I was able to peep that pretty quickly. I also noticed that his gait pattern was a little off, reminding you I work in occupational therapy, so I'm looking at the way that people walk all day long, and so his gait pattern was really off to me. And so my initial thought was, man, does he have a neurological disorder? But we later find out that he was in the army, or in the military. I believe it was the army. he jumped out of planes and he suffered from a back and knee injury. And so that explains why his gait pattern is a little abnormal. Nate has 2 kids, I believe, and he was married once and engaged once. I hope I have that right. His first marriage ended in a divorce, and I don't think he ever says what happened within that marriage. However, his fiance, the lady he was married or engaged to, had a baby outside of their relationship, so obviously that ended. However, the person that's with him on the show is his ex-girlfriend. Like, Nate, you got a lot going on. So his ex-girlfriend, Jackie, who is also the mother of his first child. Whew, I gotta take a break from that. Alright, so Jackie and Nate met while they were in college, and they were just having something casual, and Jackie ended up getting pregnant, and that's how we're here where we're here. And I just have one thing to say, Jackie, I see you, girl. Like I said, my husband is an Omega. He is a bruh, and you ain't fooling me. You ain't fooling me. When they get to hopping and barking, girl, you ain't fooling me. Jackie, you got that man caught up, and that's okay. I ain't mad at you. That's y'all's gospel, not mine, but I see you, Jackie. I see you. Jackie said, I track things by the rhythm. And so her rhythm must have been off. I know that's right, Jackie. She saw them brands, she heard that bark, and the rest was history. So, girl, come on now. Anyways, they have a child together. They conceived this child while they were in college, and apparently they've been really good friends ever since. Now, I'm going to say one thing, and nobody may agree with me, but the way that she was snug as a bug in a rug up under Mr. Nate while they were sitting on that couch just leads me to believe that some in the buttermilk ain't clean. We see Nate's house, and his house is absolutely pristine. There's not a piece of dust. There's not a speck of water. Like, everything is just in alignment. Like, everything is in tip-top shape. And, you know, I don't want to say he gives me OCD. He just gives me order. Especially with a military background, he's probably one of those people that's like, everything has its place, and we need to keep it in its place. So my initial thoughts on that is, does he have room for a woman to come into his space? Does he even want a woman to come in his space and kind of disrupt what he has going on? Because anytime you merge your life with somebody else, there's going to be there's going to be a lot of compromise and adjusting and things like that you're going to have to get around. I'm speaking to the choir. He's been married before, so he already knows this. I just want to know if he's okay with doing that this late in life. And from what I'm initially seeing, I don't think he is. I don't think he wants anybody in his space. I think he wants people in his space when he wants people in his space, and then after he's done having them in his space, satisfying whatever he has going on at the time, then he's like, okay, you can go home so I can sweep and vacuum. And that's just the vibe that I give. But we're introduced to the dating coach, which her name is Logan. And I love the fact that they have a dating coach. And Logan is talking to him, and she tells him, hey, you need to be a little bit more open. You need to be a little bit more vulnerable. So he's like, okay, I'm going to try to incorporate a lot of what you're telling me into my dates. So Nate goes on a date with Latricia, who's 56. She's never been married, and she doesn't have any kids. She's very pretty, fair-skinned, long hair, and she is just, she seems really cool. He brings her flowers. They're hitting it off real good. Latricia and Nate are on this date, and he goes, do you pray? And Latricia's like, oh my God, do I pray? Yes, I pray. Cha-ching, cha-ching. She is just giving it to him for praying. And so to me, that was a little extra, but anyways, they're here. He blesses the food, this, that, and the other, and then she starts talking about all the things she likes, and then she mentions, oh yeah, I love a God-fearing man. And the way he hesitated when she said, ooh, I love a God-fearing man, like the way he just kind of meet and sped past that, he didn't indulge in that. I was just like, man, he's not as godly as he's portraying himself to be. And we later find out that he's not. He says he's spiritual, he's not religious, and the fact that she was turning up so high for the fact that he said that he likes to pray kind of gave him cause to pause, which to me, I kind of look at Nate a little sideways, like, sir, you could have just stopped her right then and been like, look, I pray over my food, I attend church occasionally, but I'm not in there all day, every day. And let her know that, so then there's nothing going on. And also too, with her, she never mentioned like, oh, I want my man to go to church every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, or how often they go to church. She just said, I love a God-fearing man, which I love a God-fearing man. My husband's a God-fearing man, and we're not in church every week. So that just could be one of the requirements to her. Not saying that she needs somebody to just always be in the church and be in every single ministry. She just wants somebody that she can pray with and talk to the Lord with, and that like God is kind of like the center of the relationship. They're talking about being active and exercising and things like that, and so he just takes this time to kind of interject and say, hey, you know, I can't do all the things that I can't do all these things that people do. You know, I sustained this injury, I'm now, you know, and it's affected me. And I really like the way that Latricia handled it. She was just like, hey, you can't go walking for 10 miles, but there are other things that you can do to keep yourself fit and keep yourself healthy and in shape. And so I really think that kind of, he may have been like a little anxious about revealing that part of himself. And I think the way that she responded, but by not like blowing it up, really kind of lessen that anxiousness, and kind of like, I feel like that was like a confidence boost. Like, okay, I can talk about this and nobody really make it a big deal. It's really not as big of a deal as like I've made it seem. We get to the end of their date and Nate goes, can we take a selfie? And when he says that, y'all, I'm not gonna lie, it was really kind of awkward to me. Like, what do you mean take a selfie? This is my first time meeting you. This was a blind date. I know nothing about you. I don't even have your phone number, and you want to take a picture of me? Like, are you using it as like photo proof? Are you gonna be like sending it out in a group chat? Like, what is the reason that you want to take a picture with me? She was even taken aback by first. She was like, a selfie? And I was like, I know that's right. But anyways, eventually she was just like, yeah, we can take a selfie. And I realized that he uses that as a way to like ask for the phone number. I guess, Nate, I see you too. I see you, and I see Jackie, and I see y'all together. Susan goes on a date with Frank, and Frank is 63, and I don't have anything else written about Frank. I know that he has young kids. I want to say that he had a child that was 16, so 63 and 16. Frank is smitten. He is like, she is hot. Like, I just love what I see. He brought her flowers. They're having fun. They're flirting. They're kind of jabbing at each other, kind of clowning around, and just having a really, really good time on their date. They mentioned a blepharoplasty, which I was kind of chuckling at because that's a procedure that I definitely want. And hearing 63-year-olds talk about it, just kind of chuckle. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's basically when you take like the extra fold of your eye and they like take it out and then they pull it up. I have hooded eyes, that's why I want it. So anyways, a lot of people get it because it starts impacting their vision. They're on their date and it seems like they're having a really good time. I don't really have a lot to say about this date. It seemed to go well. I think Suzanne is just one of those people that no matter who she's with, just her personality, she's going to have a good time and it's going to be a lot of fun. I do think that Suzanne is here for a good time, and she's going to enjoy every single second of this opportunity and of this process. So yeah, it was really cute to see how after the date, Frank was like stressing. He's like, oh man, I didn't get her number. And I was like, that man is stressed. Like, baby girl, give Frank your number. So after the date, they FaceTime. And I say they because her daughter comes to the date and is like, hey mom, I'm here to pick you up. And so I don't know how I feel about her daughter picking her up from the date. And it was really kind of weird that she was like, I'm going to pick you up. But Frank left and they stayed. So I wonder if that was like a production thing or whatever the case may be, because that was just a little odd to me that you were picking her up, but y'all stayed. Anyways, they FaceTime Logan, and Logan is looking like, girl, why are you calling me after business hours? Her face when she first appeared up on the FaceTime just tickled me. I was tickled. I was like, she could care less right now. She was sleeping. She's talking to her. Logan is being inquisitive about how the date went. Suzanne's filling her in, and she's like, okay, well, it sounds like y'all had a really good time. So, it turned out really good. Later on, we find out that Frank added Suzanne because that man was stressed. I'm telling y'all, he was stressed about not getting Suzanne's number. She walked in, she was showing them legs, and Frank said, I had to have a piece of that. And so he sent her a DM on Facebook. This man done found her on Facebook, slid into the DMs, and was like, I need to see you again. And Suzanne was like, I'm flattered, but no. So that's it on Suzanne and Frank. All right, I forgot to talk about Anees and George's date, and how I forgot to talk about them, I have no idea. So, I also got to take a pause for this because it was a mess. Whew, George. So, George is 60 years old, and he has been married twice. And he is in nuclear security. And something about nuclear security just gives me PTSD after watching Love is Blind. But we're not here to talk about a former show. We're here to talk about a present show. So, when Anees first walked into the restaurant, George had this attitude. Like, he was rolling his eyes at Anees. And I was like, what? Like, what? Like, why is he being all sassy-frassy about Anees walking into this restaurant? But let me say this, Anees's outfit for that first date, I personally did not think it was appropriate. It was just given too much. She had a lot going on here. She had her legs out. It was just, to me, it just wasn't first date appropriate, and that's just me. In my fashion sense, I would have loved to see her a little bit more covered up, but she has the body, she wanted to show it off, and that's what she did. And I think the way that she dressed had a lot to do with how George interacted with her. I'm not saying that's the sole purpose, because a part of me feels like that George is just George, but I do think that the way that she was dressed had a lot to do with why he talked to her and made assumptions about her the way that he did. They were talking, and George was like, ooh, she's my kind of beautiful, because he liked what he saw. And so she begins to talk about how she has 2 kids, and he was like, they got the same daddy. And I was like, oh, I know. George was unfiltered. He said what he wanted to say, and wanted to know what he wanted to know, and didn't care about it. He said, because I've talked to girls who had 3 kids and they all had 3 different baby daddies, and we got to get down to what's what. He also asked Anees if she's had any work done, and I was like, George, come on, George, I know you didn't just ask this lady if she didn't have some plastic surgery. Good my God. So then he talks about how Anees is a little ghetto, and how he knows that she got some ghetto in him. And not in him, in her. He knows that Anees has some ghetto in her, that the ghetto is in her heart. And he was just like the blonde wig. And as soon as he mentioned the blonde wig and kind of correlated it to being ghetto, I immediately thought of Babs. Halle Berry's character with the blonde, I was just like, oh, he think that Miss Anees is Halle Berry. What was her name? Niecy or something like that. Anyways, I need to know who George's coach is, or if he is part of the coaching process, because I know it wasn't Logan. And if it was Logan and she heard about how George came out to play, I know she has something to say about that. He was very offensive, and I don't know why or what gave him the gall to think that he could talk to anybody he is meeting for the first time like that. But George gives me, I like the young girls, and I can say what I want to say to these young girls because they don't know, and it goes over their head, and they just and I got my SSI check, and as long as I'm spending that money on them, they're gonna be all right with that. That's just kind of the vibes I get. I could be very wrong, but that's just what I'm getting, especially when he said, "I live in Chattanooga, but I play around in Atlanta." That told me all I needed to know about George. All right, y'all. So that is where the episode ends. Drop down in the comments and let me know who your favorite later dater is so far. I'd be interested to see who everybody is going up for. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. Also, subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel, y'all. And don't forget to tell somebody, to tell somebody, to tell somebody else to come on over and enjoy Lovey with Nee. Thank you guys so very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Yeah, yeah, yeah.